Shiva Jaya Jaya Gaura Chande Arogya Soma Jaya Jaya Gaura Chande Arogya Soma Madhura Hare की, सीताराम लक्ष्मण हनुमान की जय, गौरीताई की जय, जय हम विष्णुपाद परमहंस जय श्री भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय, हम विष्णुपाद परमहंस जय भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव की, नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की, प्रेम से गौर श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की, श्री राधे कृष्ण गोपी गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिरि गोवर्धन की, मायपुर नाम नाम की, नीलाचल जगन्नाथ धाम की, तुलसी देवी भक्ति देवी की, गंगा देवी यमुना देवी की, हरिनाम संकीर्तन की, स्वामी भक्तवृंद की, निताय गौर प्रभुनंदी, all glory symbol devotees, all glory symbol devotees, all glory symbol devotees, all glory Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yasodanandana Praja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Praja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yasodanandana Praja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Praja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnana Tirmiyandasya Jananjana Salakaya Chakchurun Militanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutaye Swayam Rupa Kadadmayam Dadati Sva Padantikam. Vandeyam Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savdhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakhan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Trubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutaye Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prajarane Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Praschatya Desatarane. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today we're reading from chapter 2, text 60, from the Bhagavad Gita. Yatato hiyapi kunteya purusasya vipaschitaha indriyani pramatini haranti prasabhamana. Yatato yapi kunteya purusasya vipaschitaha indriyani pramatini haranti prasabhamana. Yato yapi kunteya purusasya vipaschitaha indriyani pramatini haranti prasabhamana. And the translation. The senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind, even of a man of discrimination, who is endeavoring to control them. So the translation one more time. The senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind, even of a man of discrimination, who is endeavoring to control them. And purport. There are many learned sages, philosophers, and transcendentalists who try to conquer the senses, but in spite of their endeavors, even the greatest of them sometimes fall victim to material sense enjoyment due to the agitated mind. Even Vishramita, a great sage and perfect yogi, was misled by Maneka into sex enjoyment. Although the yogi was endeavoring for sense control with severe types of penance and yoga practice. And of course there are so many similar instances in the history of the world. Therefore it is very difficult to control the mind and senses without being fully Krishna conscious. Without engaging the mind in Krishna, one cannot cease such material engagements. A practical example is given by Sri Yamunacharya, a great saint and devotee who says, Yad avadi mama shataha Krishna pada ravinde Nava nava rasadamani udyatam ratum asit Tadavati bata nari sangame smaryamani Bhavati mukha vikara sustu nishti vanamja. Since my mind has been engaged in the service of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, and I have been enjoying a never-new transcendental humor, whenever I think of sex life with a woman, my face at once turns from it, and I spit at the thought. Krishna consciousness is such a transcendental, nice thing that automatically material enjoyment becomes distasteful. It is as if a hungry man had satisfied his hunger by a sufficient quantity of nutritious eatables. Maharaj Ambarish also conquered a great yogi, Durvas Muni, simply because his mind was engaged in Krishna consciousness. Savai mana Krishna padaravindayor vachamsi vaikunta gunanu varnani. We're reading from text, chapter 2, text 60. And the translation is, the senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind, even of a man of discrimination, who is endeavoring to control them. So before I get into speak, I would like to seek the blessings of all the assembled devotees and who are also listening online also, if you could please give your blessing so I can speak something of benefit and something that's worthwhile. So this speaks about the senses, that you're so strong and impetuous. So in the Bhagavad Gita, it deals with, there's three aspects which are mainly deals with is Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and then Bhakti Yoga. So when one is, as I mentioned in the purport, like Ambarish Maharaj, when he is fully engaged in Bhakti, his senses were, he was able to conquer the challenges. So his mind was engaged in Krishna consciousness, so he was satisfied. It also mentioned, the example is given, if one is in Bhakti and Krishna consciousness, that is similar to the sea and the rivers which flow into the sea. So even though there's incessant desires which continuously flow into the sea remains completely undisturbed, and it remains. It simply is calm. underneath. So, like as I mentioned, these sages like Vishwamitra, and also there's the sage Subari Muni, who I believe he was meditating for over thousands of years underwater, and then he was a very accomplished yogi. He so much so that he could actually go underwater to meditate, and he took his practice very seriously. So he thought maybe this is the best place to meditate, where he would be undisturbed. But then, as the story goes, even after so many thousands of years in meditation, he happened to see in front of him two fish which were uniting, and so this actually agitated his mind, which led to him falling down from that renounced order in terms of wanting to find a mate. Yeah. So there's different levels and different ways, different paths that one may go to approach the Supreme Lord. But there's different processes like jnana, and then there's karma. So jnana is knowledge, but knowledge is useless without action, actually. And then likewise, action is useless unless it's guided by knowledge as well. So the two of them are actually interrelated to a certain degree, and they will eventually lead to bhakti. So it says, in other words, one can perform nishkama karma yoga on two levels, depending on the advancement of one's transcendental knowledge. In the first, one dutifully performs prescribed work with detachment based on knowledge that we are not this body, without necessarily offering the fruits to Krishna in devotion. The other offers the results of one's labor to Krishna, while still being attached to the specific type of work he does. The latter is a devotee who knows that the goal is Krishna, but is not yet on the platform of pure devotion. This is a superior stage of Nishkama Karma Yoga. In pure Bhakti Yoga, on the other hand, the sole impetus for work is surrender to the order of Guru and Krishna. So this is a text from chapter 13, text 6 to 7, from Nature, the Enjoyer, and Consciousness. Mahabhutani ahankaro buddhir avyakam evacha indriyani desakam cha pancha chendriya gochara icha dvesa sukham dukam sangatas chetana driti etat chetram samesena savikaram udaritam. So the translation. They're the five great elements: false ego, intelligence, the unmanifested, the 10 senses, the mind, the 5 sense objects, desire, hatred, happiness, the aggregate, the like symptoms, and convictions. All these are considered in summary to be the field of activities and its interactions. So naturally, every conditioned soul has these elements: the false ego, the intelligence, and the senses and their different interactions. And it's also stated that every living entity has desire, so they can't be desireless. And the nature of the soul is to be engaged in activity. So desireless is described in the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 2. Desireless is described as desiring Krishna. So if one is desiring Krishna, then they're naturally desireless. So in chapter 3, text 42, Karma Yoga, it says, Indriyani parani ahur, Indriya be paramanaha, manasas tu para buddhir, yo buddhi paratas tu saha. The working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind. And he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. So the senses are described as venomous serpents, that they're always wanting to enjoy. And and also the mind, the senses are feeding the mind. So the uncontrolled mind will then feed the intelligence with all these different varieties of options. But one has to actually practice regulation to control the senses and the mind. So in the process of Krishna consciousness, we have the 4 regulative principles, and also, of course, our own sadhana, which is chanting and, of course, being engaged in service. So it's a natural process that when we engage our senses in Krishna's service, they become purified, and naturally, this is the way of regulation. Whereas other yogis, it's described as those on different paths. Even as it's mentioned around this part that one who is following a different path, like Astanga yoga or Dhyana yoga, that they don't have, since they're not anchored in Bhakti yoga, that it's they're forcing themselves to renounce, rather because they don't naturally have that higher taste. So it's a much more vulnerable situation, as is the example of the sage. So also in the next verse in this chapter, in text 62, it starts to give the example of how one actually, what happens and what is the process for the senses to be agitated. So it says, while contemplating the objects of the senses. So that's the first one, is it begins with contemplation. So then it says, a person develops attachment for them. And from attachment, lust develops. So naturally in the material world, lust will never find full satisfaction. So it's always going to be a frustrated endeavor. And from lust, anger arises. From anger, complete delusion arises. And from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost. And when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. So it's a natural, even if one contemplates enjoyment and sense gratification within the mind, naturally, if one doesn't cut that out, and they don't take refuge of the holy name of Krishna and Krishna Katha, anything that's related to Krishna, well then naturally this attachment will develop, and it will slowly lead to falling down again into the material pool. So one has to be constantly vigilant and seek shelter of the holy name. So as it says in chapter 7, verse 14, this divine energy of mind, consisting of the 3 modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. So it was also a letter from Srila Prabhupada to Mukunda. So this is dated, it's from New York, the 13th of May 1967. So it says, therefore everyone should be very careful against the attack of Maya. The devotees of the temple must keep themselves engaged, otherwise they cannot make progress in Krishna consciousness. The Maya is very strong, and as soon as there is opportunity, the Maya will come and attack. Therefore, everyone should be very careful against the attack of Maya, and the only effective defense is remain Krishna consciousness always. Okay. So I just want to give the story of Ambaris and Durvasa Muni. So it goes as, once Maharaj Ambaris was worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Vrindavan, observing the vow of Devadashi. On Devadashi, the day after Ekadashi, when he was about to break his Ekadashi fast, the great mystic yogi Durvasa appeared in his house and became his guest. King Ambaris respectfully received Durvasa Muni, and Durvasa Muni, after accepting his invitation to eat there, went to bathe in the Yamuna river at noontime. Because he was absorbed in samadhi, he did not come back very soon. Maharaj Ambaris, however, upon seeing that the time to break the fast was passing, drank a little water, in accordance with the advice of learned Brahmanas, just to observe the formality of breaking the fast. By mystic power, Durvasa Muni could understand that this had happened, and he was very angry. When he returned, he began to chastise Maharaj Ambaris, but he was not satisfied. And finally he created from his hair a demon appearing like the fire of death. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, however, is always the protector of his devotee, and to protect Maharaj Ambaris, he sent his disc, the Sudarshan Chakra, which immediately vanquished the fiery demon, and then pursued Durvasa, who was so envious of Maharaj Ambaris. Durvasa fled to Brahma Loka, Shiva Loka, and all the other higher planets, but he could not protect himself from the wrath of the Sudarshan Chakra. Finally he went to the spiritual world and surrendered to Lord Narayan, but Lord Narayan could not excuse a person who had offended a Vaishnav. To be excused from such an offence, one must submit to the Vaishnav whom he has offended. There is no other way to be excused. Thus Lord Narayan advised Durvasa to return to Maharaj Ambaris and beg his pardon. So, and also as another example is the story of Haridas Thakur, which shows the power of taking shelter of the holy name. So I'm just going to also read the story and convey the story. After leaving his home, Haridas Thakur stayed for some time in the forest of Venapola. He constructed a cottage in the forest. Outside the cottage he planted a tulsi plant, and he would chant the holy name of Krishna 300,000 times daily in front of tulsi. He chanted throughout the entire day and night. For his bodily maintenance, he would go to a Brahmin's house and beg some food. He was so spiritually pure that all the neighbouring people worshipped him. The ruler of that district was Ramachandra Khan. He was envious of devotees of Krishna, and therefore a great atheist. Unable to tolerate the respect being offered to Haridas Thakur, he made plans to dishonour him. He could not, however, find any fault in the character of Haridas Thakur. Finally he called all the local prostitutes together and said to them, "There is a devotee named Haridas Thakur in the forest. All of you devise a way to deviate him from his religious vows." Out of all the prostitutes, there was one very attractive young girl, and she promised, "I shall attract the mind of Haridas Thakur within 3 days." Ramachandra Khan said, "Very good. I shall send my constable with you, and when he sees you with Haridas Thakur, he will immediately arrest him and bring both of you to me. The prostitute replied, "First let me have union with him once, then the second time I shall take your constable with me to arrest him." That night the prostitute, after dressing herself most attractively, went to the cottage of Haridas Thakur with great pleasure. When she arrived, she bowed down and offered prayers to the tulsi plant. She then went to the door of the cottage and offered obeisances to Haridas Thakur. She exposed part of her body to his view and sat down at his doorstep. She spoke to him in very sweet words. "My dear Thakur, O great preacher, great devotee, you are so beautifully built and your youth is just beginning. What woman could control her mind after seeing you? I am so eager to be united with you. My mind is greedy for this. If I don't obtain you, I shall die." Haridas Thakur replied, "I shall accept you without fail, but you will have to wait until I finish chanting Hare Krishna on my beads. Until I do, please sit down here and listen to the chanting of the holy name. As soon as I am finished, I shall fulfill your desire." Hearing this, the prostitute remained sitting there while Haridas Thakur chanted on his beads until the light of morning appeared. When she saw it was morning, she stood up and left. She went to Ramachandra Khan and said, "Today Haridas Thakur has promised to enjoy with me. Tomorrow certainly I shall have union with him." The next evening the prostitute returned to Haridas Thakur's cottage and he gave her many assurances. He said, "Last night you were disappointed. Please excuse my offense. I shall certainly accept you. Please sit down here and hear the chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra until my regular chanting is finished. Then your desire will surely be fulfilled." After offering obeisances to the tulsi plant and Haridas Thakur, she sat down on the floor. Hearing Haridas Thakur chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, she also chanted, "O my Lord Hari, O my Lord Hari." When the night came to an end, the prostitute was restless. When Haridas Thakur saw this, he said, "I have made a vow to chant 10 million names of Krishna this month. I have taken this vow, but now the month is nearing its end. I thought today I would be able to finish. I tried my best to chant Hare Krishna all night, but still I have not finished. Tomorrow I will surely finish and my vow will be fulfilled. Then it will be possible for me to enjoy with you in full freedom." Haridas Thakur didn't want to enjoy with the prostitute. He simply tricked her to give her the chance to hear the holy name while he chanted. Pure devotees chant Hare Krishna, and simply by hearing this chanting from a purified transcendental person, one becomes free of all sinful activities, no matter how sinful one may be. The prostitute then returned to Ramachandra Khan and informed him what had happened. The next night she went earlier, at the beginning of the evening, and stayed with Haridas Thakur. After offering obeisances to the tulsi plant and Haridas Thakur, she sat on the doorstep. As she heard Haridas Thakur's chanting, she also personally chanted Hari Hari. "Today it will be possible for me to finish my vow of chanting 10 million names of Krishna this month," Haridas Thakur informed her. "Then I will satisfy all your desires." The morning came and Haridas Thakur was still chanting, but because of his association, the prostitute's mind had changed. She fell at the lotus feet and confessed Ramachandra Khan had sent her to him to pollute him. "Because I have taken the profession of a prostitute," she said, "I have performed unlimited sinful acts. My Lord, be merciful to me. Deliver my fallen soul." Haridas Thakur replied, "I know everything about the conspiracy of Ramachandra Khan. He is nothing but an ignorant fool. Therefore his activities do not make me feel unhappy. I would have left this place immediately when I understood he was planning the intrigue against me, but because you came here, I stayed here to deliver you." The prostitute replied, "Kindly act as my spiritual master. Instruct me in my duty so I can become free from material existence." Haridas Thakur said, "Immediately go home and distribute whatever property you have to the Brahmins. Then come back to this cottage and stay here and stay here forever in Krishna consciousness. Chant the Hare Krishna mantra continuously and serve the tulsi plant by watering her and offering prayers to her. In this way you will very soon achieve the shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. After giving the prostitute these instructions, Haridas Thakur stood up and left that place continuously chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Soon after this, the prostitute distributed whatever household possessions she had to the Brahmins in accordance with her spiritual master's order. She shaved her head clean and stayed within that cottage in the forest, wearing only one cloth. Following in the footsteps of her spiritual master, she began chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra 300,000 times daily. She chanted for the whole day and night. She worshipped the tulsi plant, and instead of eating regularly, she chewed whatever food she received as alms. If nothing was supplied, she would fast. Thus, by eating little and fasting, she conquered her senses. As soon as she controlled her senses, the symptoms of love of God appeared in her person. In this way, the prostitute became a famous devotee. She became very advanced in spiritual life, and many great devotees would visit her. When people saw her sublime character, they were astonished. Everyone praised the influence of Haridas Thakur and offered him obeisances. As we see, chanting the holy names helped Haridas Thakur to resist the temptation presented by the prostitute. If you contrast that with other saints such as Vishwamitra, who attempted the path of self-realization through self-effort, you can see that self-effort alone is not enough. The grace of God is also required. It is said, Phalena parichyate. One is recognized by the result of his actions. There are many types of devotees. Some of them are called Goswamis, some are Prabhus, and some are Prabhupada. One is not recognized, however, simply by such a name. A spiritual master is recognized as an actual guru when it is seen that he has changed the character of his disciples. Haridas Thakur actually changed the character of the professional prostitute. People greatly appreciated this, and as a result they have always glorified and offered obeisances to Haridas Thakur. So that explains very much how to take shelter of the holy name, that all obstacles and all sinful activities can be overcome. So thank you very much, and that ends this evening's class. Okay, Hare Krishna. And Jai Srila Prabhupada and Jai Bhagavad Gita. Jai. And assemble devotees ki. Jai. It's like maybe an antibacterial spray.
What does it do?
Maybe it like kills germs.
Oh, it's not harmful.
Not for us.
It doesn't look nice on the table when you look at the table.
Oh yeah. Maybe just water is okay. Yeah. Yes.
You can use this for tomorrow.
Yeah.
wipe it in the morning.
Oh, nice. Yes.
Top I wipe here now. Just to write the bottom. That's it.
Yes, so it's clean. Yeah.
Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanshan Shri Rupam Chakrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tvam Sajivam Shadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanitanscha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda गदाधार शिवासदि गौरभक्तवृन्दा श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधार शिवासदि गौरभक्तवृन्दा श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधार शिवासदि गौरभक्तवृन्दा Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama.